Nah, man. We ain't congratulated. No, none of that.
Why not?
We'll talk about that later because we don't get into politics. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Serge.
And my name is James.
Nico wants a shout out. I didn't even check Nico's team. 81 points, yeah?
Yeah.
Proof that a broken watch
you
is
don't need
correct
to make a transfer for about
times.
2 months to get a good score in FPL.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Yeah, I think not enough credit is given to luck in this game, especially in the engaged
don't
Twitter
start
community.
the skill v luck debate.
Why?
Well, for starters, the game we can't ended yet.
No, but I'm also doing I'm doing all right this week, so you know it's got to be a bit of luck involved somewhere.
Okay, mate. How was your week then?
I missed the get deadline again, didn't I?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did, but I wasn't going to do anything anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, had you going for a minute there. I'd set my team up on the Friday, so I was... After you'd messaged me to say Haaland, Pep had said Haaland is ready to start. He didn't say Haaland is going to start.
No, he did not say that.
He said Haaland is ready to start.
We think he probably is starting tonight.
Yeah.
Seems to be the word.
So I'd already put the armband on him anyway, regardless of what the news was going to be. So that just kind of made my mind up. My team was set, ready to go, and started well on Saturday because I had Richarlison. So tidy 15 pointer from him. We'll talk about it. Did you enjoy a day trip out to Everton?
Yeah, it was all right.
Nice.
I mean,
Tell me, unlike Brighton,
at the ending, but
did you? Because you obviously, for regular listeners will know, and maybe even more patrons from Tottenham, you went to the Brighton away game where you were losing 4-0, 4-0, and you told your dad, "No, we should stay till the end." Tell me, you made him stay to the end this time as well.
What do you think? I told him to leave at 2-1. Yeah, Dad, let's leave now. We've won.
Good,
Doesn't
good.
work like that.
Just making sure that you put him through that pain, unfortunately. So yeah, started well with Richarlison's 15-pointer, and obviously he's not madly highly owned, Richarlison.
It's enough to kill my rank this week.
No,
though.
I know, but I've owned him for quite a while now, and so if you're looking at consistency ever since Forest, or even before that, since Newcastle, I mean, he must be the most consistent.
Is he 9 goals in 8 games, I think?
15, 9, 8, then the Brighton away game was a blank.
Treating seriously now.
But then 8, 8, 7, 15... and then, obviously, you've got Brighton at home. You will have chances against Brighton.
Oh, it'll be about 5-4, mate.
And Wolves at home, and then Palace at home. So 3 home games on the trot. I think Richie
with
stays
a blank in the middle.
Yeah. Trips, obviously, came in with a 9-pointer for me as well, which was decent, considering they conceded 4 goals. I'll take that all day long. And Ollie Watkins. So the trinity of those 3 gave me a good game week, plus Cole Palmer. Disappointments, obviously, Dubravka over Areola, but then Areola's gone off at half time.
Mate.
No, it didn't, but Areola's now gone off at half time.
Precautionary was what David Moyes said.
But yeah, I think
it wasn't used as a concussion substitute.
No, I know.
That said, it would have been of no benefit for West Ham to use it as one, because West Ham would have not wanted Manchester United to have an extra sub, I don't think. So
right. And then
as you didn't even want to use Danny Ings despite being 3-0 down. No.
Yeah. Diaby didn't start, but I had to take the gamble with him.
That's a major chopping block for you, mate.
He is. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
I'll probably make a goalkeeper sub and Diaby. And Diogo Jota, look, it was a top-of-the-table clash, so that can happen in any game where you get a blank out of those, like Trent and Jota. So I've still got Haaland captain and Julian Alvarez to go. Sitting on 56 points, green arrow. It will be a green arrow unless, I don't know, Haaland decides to headbutt someone and Alvarez flies in with a 2-footed tackle and Ivan Toney scores a hat-trick or something.
Tony, De Bruyne, I mean, particularly De Bruyne could hurt you tonight,
De Bruyne
right?
could, but then obviously Haaland captain could be a real rank jump as well. So
yeah. It's kind of difficult to define whether this week's good or bad for people. There'll be some that it's definitely already good for.
Haaland's at 106 or 120.
And there's some that it will definitely be bad. I mean, it's just under 100, I think.
Was he under 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
Till obviously tonight's finish, because there are players that can obviously damage or help the rank tonight. For example, I'm only on 45 this week, Suj. And to beat you, I need Phil Foden to get 12 tonight.
Yeah.
It's probably not happening.
No, I mean, it could be Phil Foden 15 points. It could be Phil Foden doesn't even play. Who's first sub? Gabriel?
Bowen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how is it that I've got 4 points from my 3 defensive players this week and yet I made the right choices?
Yeah.
Yes, I benched Gabriel's -1. Unbelievably. Pau Torres, my other defender, obviously unavailable, who I obviously would have wanted to start this week. So, yeah, nothing from the defensive guys. Dubravka 1, Porro 1, Trent 1. When Gusto locked in his 0-pointer, I certainly didn't think that was going to outscore Gabriel. The hand of Gab helped me out there. 9 for Saka, 7 for Bailey, who I know was a lot of, oh my God, Ezri Konsa off in the 59th minute. But Bailey coming off in the 59th minute probably cost him 3 points and maybe more. I realise it obviously cost Konsa owners at least 5, most likely. Cole Palmer, 8-pointer. Ollie Watkins, 18. It's the second week in a row I've reflected and gone, should have captained Ollie Watkins.
No, wait. You can't say that till Haaland's played.
Well, look, knowing that Watkins was going to play up front against the worst team in the league and knowing that there would be more space in an away game than a home game, look, did I expect it to go that well? No. And is Haaland going to get 18 tonight? No. No, I'll go on record and say that now. He won't get 18 points tonight. If he does, yeah, I'll be laughing as well. I've got Foden, Alvarez, captain Haaland to go tonight. So no idea at this stage whether it's going to be a green or a red. It's probably a more likely red for me. I obviously need Haaland to go.
Is it red at the moment?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've dropped to 271k from about 215. But when your captain's still to play, you can't really define the game week, can you? What are you thinking moving forward now?
I'm thinking, how is there only 43 points between us?
What do you mean only?
I thought it was like 100. Honestly thought you were about 100 points ahead of me.
Never. Never been more than about 60, I don't think.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
I honestly thought it would be more like 100. So are you telling me if I had a Captain Jota when I was supposed to and not missed the deadline, I'd be
That's
within,
what I told you, yeah.
So within 5-10 points?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I might put some effort in now.
Might be helpful.
Well, what am I thinking? I may consider making a goalkeeper move.
Why?
If I hear news on Areola. If I hear news on Areola.
Yeah, but even if he was to miss this week with, say, concussion.
Yeah, it'd be long term. If he was out.
Nah, it's not going to be.
Don't think
it's
so.
a bang to the head, didn't he?
My other problem is obviously my volume of Liverpool and Tottenham and Chelsea, but with a view of 26. Obviously, I want my Liverpool boys for 25. We should add. They did it. They announced it.
Unbelievable.
Well done, Premier League. So I can't sell my Liverpool until I go into 26. I'd like to have 2 frees rolling into 26. I've got 2 frees this week. So it may be a case of Porro is on the chopping block for me. He hasn't particularly been returning recently. And if I downgraded Porro, I've still got a first choice back 3 of Trent, Trippier and Gabriel. I mean, can't really complain with that as a first choice back 3. So Porro is potentially on the chopping block for me just to give me one more player for game week 26. And the aforementioned Moussa Diaby. And I've got 1.7 in the bank. So even if I downgrade Porro to even a Stupinan or something, I'd end up with the opportunity to go up to 8.5 million, something along those lines.
How many City you got?
2.
So you could go to like Foden under that circumstance if you wanted.
For the double game week. And obviously I'd still have him for 26 as well. So yeah, that would do me nicely. A City attacker would be first choice at the moment.
Yeah, it's a lot of options this week available. We should clarify just in case anyone is living under a rock. Yes, on Saturday morning they did confirm that Liverpool and Luton would go into game week 25. Not that FPL have confirmed it yet, because if you go on the fixtures for game week 25, it's still not there. But I can assure you, Liverpool and Luton has been announced for Wednesday, the 21st of February, 7:30 kickoff, which is exactly what most of us thought was going to happen. Except it got to kind of Thursday and it was like, well, where is it? Then Friday didn't happen. You think, I'd got to the point where Pete messaged me from FPL team. He messaged me Friday night and he said, should we change the projected fixtures? And I said,
let's take it off, you mean?
Yeah, because obviously it was still there as 25. And I said, let's wait till Sunday. Let's wait till Sunday. And what I'd said to him was move it to 37 and a potential treble game week if it's not announced by Sunday, and stick Bournemouth Luton in 28. There has been a lot of speculation about Bournemouth Luton potentially going into game week 28. I would still be on the side of thinking that's less likely than likely, but it would certainly come as no surprise. There are a few that have been claiming on social media already that they know that it's going to happen. So be aware of that as a possibility. We spoke about that last Monday about Solanke, if it did drop, as a triple captaincy option in that game week. What I would say is you'll probably know before game week 25, well, you should do, but look at these nutters leaving it till 2.5 weeks before announcing Liverpool Luton. So it should have been announced Monday, because they should have known exactly, like if Liverpool Luton went through in the cup, that's it, done, boom, announce it. Should have been announced on Sunday night, to be honest. But anyway, they've done it. I see a few people going, no, the Premier League don't care about FPL. They'll announce it when they want. It's nothing to do with FPL. It's about notice for football fans and arranging their lives for a Wednesday night, etc. Anyway, yeah, so we've got that information now. That's important.
How many blankers have you got in? 26 at the moment.
So currently, it doesn't look terrible in the sense I've only got Trent, I've got Palmer and Gusto, and I've got Pedro Porro.
That's 4.
So it's 4. But obviously want to add more Liverpool, right? I don't want to go into the Liverpool with just one double. Villa-Chelsea replays obviously Wednesday night. That's massively important in terms of knowing which game between Arsenal v Chelsea and West Ham v Villa is on in 29. I spoke last week about I've got 4 players involved in the Arsenal-Chelsea fixture. I've got 5 involved in the West Ham Villa fixture. I ain't doing nothing before that fixture is out the way on Wednesday night. We may get some additional information on Mo Salah this week. We know that he was running at the end of last week. I would say my personal opinion right now would be that seeing how Trent's minutes have been managed, and he wasn't out for long either, that they'll probably tread quite carefully with Mo. I wouldn't look at Mo and think, oh, you're playing 180 minutes in the double if he's suddenly back. But if you saw him get good minutes against Burnley at the weekend, it'd be enough to think, oh, shit, I need to chop this up. And I would maybe do so, yeah. So Villa-Chelsea is important for me. Liverpool's obviously top of the agenda. Great fixture this week, and now obviously it's a good double one in 25 with an awareness of 26 and 29. So there's a number that are potentially on the chopping blocks for me. I think, yes, goalkeeper change is a possibility for me, particularly if, let's say, Bournemouth Luton was announced this week. I'd maybe look at Kaminsky, you know?
Okay.
I do like having keepers who've got doubles, even if it's a shit double.
Yeah.
Just because of the unpredictability of returns.
Penalty or whatever. I mean, when I talked about where I'd go to from Porro, Alfie Doughty, top of the list at 4.5 with the double in mind.
Kaminsky doesn't give me an extra headache for 26, if you think about it, right? Because I just use the other keeper. So if I know Areola's all right, he's probably looking ahead. Let's say
that's true.
Let's say that Villa lost. I know that I'd have Areola for 29. Also, Kaminsky's got Sheffield United this week, timing's possibly not bad if you want to go down that route. Porro, unfortunately, probably is. I was of the opinion of saying, yeah, do you know what? There's no way I'm moving him because of 29. But it's a really good way for me to find a little bit of money, particularly if I decide I want to go back to Mo, then, yeah, Porro's probably going to have to get cut because I'm not cutting Trent at the moment. Gusto's on the chopping block. Pau Torres on the chopping block. Pretty much all of my midfield reluctantly is on the chopping block. Alvarez might be on the chopping block, and Watkins might be on the chopping block as well. If I deem that I need to find money enough and go Watkins to Adebayo, for example, to find a Salah, yeah, I might do that sort of thing. I can see me flipping Alvarez to get De Bruyne back in, potentially, if there's conclusiveness that Salah's unlikely to be back for 25. Jota's of real interest. Nunes is of interest. I think looking at my plan moving forward, if Villa win on Wednesday and Arsenal-Chelsea's going on in 29, I can see me joining Clayton's path and looking at an extra Arsenal defensive player, actually, in the build-up towards that. Because defensive players just ain't getting returns. Arsenal's fixture run, you can just focus on the doubles. Their fixture run is good, what's coming up, right? So, yeah, there's lots of options, which is going to be a lot defined by Wednesday night, I think, and that Villa-Chelsea game.
Yep.
You'd have to think Villa will win, judging by the two teams' performances at the weekend, but maybe Chelsea will sort themselves out.
Any love for, like, Kwanzaa, for example? Now we know Konate is going to get suspended,
One
right?
game.
You don't think...
I think it actually makes Konate more appealing. The fact he's got red carded, because he'll miss the Burnley game, and we've been saying a lot that Konate was a potential problem because he would miss games like Burnley. Quansah played in the reverse fixture. Obviously, they can use Joe Gomez at centre-back as well now that Trent and Robertson are back as well. But I actually think Konate, interestingly, could be a cheap one to go for 25 if you're struggling to get what you want from Liverpool assets. If you want to cover up... I've seen a lot of talk of what do we do about Trent now? And for those not on Trent, probably not going to force it. So something like Konate would still give you coverage in the double to cover that a little bit. So, yeah, it'll only be a one-game ban for him.
I've got value-based issues, James. We talked about the fact that your team value is about 104, 105. I went down the Correspondence League. Everyone is in the 104s, 5s. Somehow I'm at 102.5. I don't even know how, to be honest with you. Cole Palmer, I bought at 5.2. He's now 5.9. And Richarlison, I bought at 6.7. He's now 7.2. Whereas Jota, he's only gone up by 0.1, and Trent has only gone up by 0.2. And obviously they'll get mass sold as well before the blank. So it might be that I'll have to come off both Liverpool players just to preserve the value in Richarlison and Palmer. I can't be taking hits on value. So even if I was to add Doherty, which adds one more problem, the two players that I would sell going into 26 will probably be Trent and Jota.
Yeah, I would be similar. Yeah, quite possibly. What I would like to do this week is set my team ready for 25, even if that means taking a -4 now. So I can come into 26 with 2 frees. Trent is a definite sell for me in 26. I think Cole Palmer will get chopped by a lot of people, especially obviously if Chelsea did beat Villa on Wednesday night. You'd be looking at a situation where he's got City away 25, blank 26, blank 29. Like, how useful is he to you? A lot of people who keep Palmer will bench in 25. So he's potentially expendable for me, but he's also a nice enough value. I haven't got as much value in him as others, but he's easier to keep than Saka's or Bowen's if I need to find the money, basically, right? So Gusto is definitely a potential for the chopping block. I can't stress enough how important for me personally that Villa-Chelsea game is on Wednesday in terms of looking at that picture further forward about what I want to do. Because ideally, I don't really want to free hit in 29. That said, if Bournemouth-Luton did get added to 28, it would add the case towards doing it again in a weird one of going right dead end to 28, possibly even free hit 29 and just come out and wild card from a mess, basically, quite possibly. Yeah. I was having a conversation with one of our patrons who was looking at potentially bench boosting in 28. If Bournemouth-Luton went in there, would potentially look quite nice. The problem with that would still be you'd be manoeuvring, I think, off of so many Liverpool and City with them likely to blank in 29 that you're looking at a mess in game week 30 or so. So it could even be that people suddenly go something like bench boost 28, free hit 29, wildcard 30 and just get rid of the lot if they've used triple captaincy in 25. As said, manoeuvring teams that will double differently in 34, 37. You're likely to have 2 different sets of teams doubling. But you could obviously get the best of both worlds in terms you might go, right, well, I'll have a lot of singlers in 34. We spoke about if the favourites progress in the Cup, the teams that double in 34 might not be that attractive.
Yep.
So I don't like that as an idea, but it's perhaps a new one on the table for people if Bournemouth-Luton got added.
Cool. Should we talk about some of the games from the weekend, James?
Do so.
Let's do so.
Start with my lot.
Yeah. Coach trip at 5 o'clock in the morning.
No, 6.
Oh, okay.
But I was up at 5:15, obviously.
Oh.
It is amazing.
I hate those early starts.
I'm one of them. I do not like getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
My wife always says to me, "You always get up all right for Spurs, though, didn't you?" And of course, when the alarm went off at 4:45, I shut up, didn't I? Yeah. You've got to. There's no snoozing for the 10 minutes or nothing at that stage. It's not.
There's no Ricky Saunders to bail you out.
Exactly.
From Bedford to Merseyside.
Shout out, Ricky. Early coach journey, which was fine. I caught a bit of nap. Literally, we stopped at a service station. And as we were at the service station, the announcement come through about Liverpool-Luton. I thought, that's great little timing, actually. Everton deserved their late equaliser. Good limbs at the end, by the way. on the Gladys Street. That's the best limbs I've seen for a while, as much as I didn't want to see it. Yeah, they deserved their point. I mean, if you looked at the XG between the two teams, you could probably be led to thinking Everton deserved to win. I don't think that's quite the case, because all of Everton's threat came from crossing the ball, essentially. And in the second half, to be honest with you, up until about minute 80, Everton didn't look like they were going to score. We were in control. We looked like we'd sorted out the corner problem, which I'll touch on in a second. But then, was it Beto or Chimiti? One of them who'd come on, had a brilliant chance, should have scored, and it livened them up, because they were quiet, actually. And then, to be honest, it was when they equalised, my thoughts were the same as when Wolves equalised against us. When I went there and we conceded 2 late goals, it was, get out now.
Yep.
Get out now. Just take the point and get out, because more chance of us losing it here than going and winning it again. We actually played much better in the second half than we did in the first. In the first, we really struggled to retain possession and actually get in their half. The possession statistics don't suggest that. Everton worked really, really hard, played well, were a big threat, and when balls came into the box, it was a problem, particularly from corners, as I mentioned. There's been a lot of focus on Vicario on the first goal. I think particularly off the back of Nathan Ake's goal against us was similar in the sense the corner comes kind of right on top of him. And I've worked out what the problem is with him. He doesn't punch anything.
He doesn't.
Doesn't punch anything.
Is he a flapper or a catcher?
He catches fine. Actually, there was a number in the second half, which it's easy to forget, where he's come through the crowd and he's caught it and he's held it. He doesn't. It dawned on me on the way home. He doesn't punch anything. So I think a lot of the theory is at the moment, if you put it on top of him, even if he gets 2 hands on it, it's not going far. Like the Ake goal, he can't, because if you're putting enough pressure on him. And what players, it's not a foul. What teams are doing is they're obviously backing in and putting pressure
crowding
on.
the area.
What Tottenham have got to do is clear the area for him, and then they're not. So it's actually, you could highlight him as a problem, and it is a problem. He's got to learn to punch. But Tottenham need to protect him better, to give him the space to deal with something whilst he builds up the confidence to punch it, or give him the space and claim, which happened on a few occasions in the second half. And obviously, it was obvious as soon as the Man City goal happened, teams are going to target it. It's exactly the same. Once you see a weakness in teams will go and exploit it. I spoke about the goal Palace scored late on against us when it went over Porro's head earlier in the season, and teams were going to start looking for that off the back of Porro on the back post. That then started happening for a number of weeks. And it's not just Tottenham that this is happening to, by the way. This is actually a trend that's happening a lot with goalkeepers on corners in set plays. Last Wednesday against Brentford, there was a moment, and I kid you not, this happened, where Brentford were about to take a corner and all 10 of their outfield players were in our 6-yard box. They didn't even have anyone on the edge of the box. Right. So if you cleared it out, it was like...
break.
Well, yeah, obviously. Now, as Jensen went to take the corner, 4 of them come out and went to the edge of the box. But it causes enough confusion and problems. Imagine all them bodies there.
Yeah.
Goalkeeper's got nothing.
Yeah.
What Tottenham need to do is get someone in there who's going to push the player out of Vicario's way. You won't concede a penalty for it.
Yeah.
Just get them pushed out the way as the kick's being about to taken. Because if the ball's dead, I saw one yesterday in your game where Zuma got hit in the chin by Højlund. And we couldn't see if the ball was in play or not. If the ball's in play...
in the eye, he got hit.
Yeah, if the ball's not in play at that point, you ain't getting no decision for it. You can't, because the ball's dead. So when the ball was about to be taken, you need someone to just push him out the way to clear the path for Vicario, and it will solve the problem. I don't know if Tottenham will solve it. Richie has made me eat a lot of my words. And do you know what? It's now a consistent run of games where you look at him and go, he's playing really well. He's now had 4 consecutive really good performances for Tottenham. That includes the Man City defeat, where he was certainly our best player offensively. But he does all the dog's work going. If you look at the goals he's scoring, they're nearly all one-touch finishes. He falls into that category like a Nunes or something. It's like if you've got too much time to think about it, the 2 finishes are exceptional. So his confidence is now flying. He obviously didn't celebrate. I love the second one, where inside is such a good goal, he's thinking, I want to smile. So he's put the shirt over his head. Yeah. And he's obviously giving himself a little moment. But at least he's not taking his shirt off and getting himself booked now. That's helpful. Someone's had a word.
Interesting question for you. What's Richarlison's record with and without Son in the team?
Well, a lot of these goals include Son playing as well, right?
Okay.
So similar would be, if you're looking over the last 9 games, I guess Son's played probably more than half of them.
Looking at your lineup now, Bar, you'd play Bissouma over Højbjerg, and probably Son. Well, you would play Son over Werner.
Well, more importantly, Sarr back in. Bissouma has been a rumour, by the way.
But then you wouldn't drop Bentancur. If you've got Bentancur in there, so you're either playing Bissouma or Sarr.
Well,
you're not playing.
Højbjerg won't be first choice.
Yeah, so it's Bissouma or Sarr. It's not both. Unless you're dropping Brennan Johnson.
Well, to be honest, the options now there to rotate the thing, like was Kulusevski's.
But I'm talking about what's your first
start.
choice 11? Who would be alongside Bentancur? It'd be Bissouma, surely.
Sarr's got to be in that team at the moment for me.
Okay, so
brings too much
Bissouma
energy.
can just chill in AFCON.
Well, what I was going to say is he hasn't started Marley's last 2 games. There's been reports of a thigh injury. He did come on. They went out at the weekend, so he is technically available next week. He did come on in extra time, but he hasn't started the last 2, and he's obviously one of their key players. So he has had a bit of a thigh injury. I've also heard rumours that he's been suffering with a bad bout of illness. There has been some rumours of malaria even. So I don't think Bissouma will go straight back in. I think Sarr will come in and Bentancur will play a deeper role. Maddison obviously stay in the team. Son is highly unlikely to be back. They do play tomorrow in their Asia Cup semi-final, but are massive favourites to go through. They equalised against Saudi Arabia in the 99th minute last week and equalised against Australia in the 96th minute on Friday and managed to get themselves through both of them. Sonny scored the winner. Brilliant free kick, by the way. If they did lose tomorrow, then he's potentially back for Saturday. I would foresee that Tottenham's first choice front 3 would be Son left, Richarlison up front and Kulusevski on the right. Werner is playing well, but there's no way once Son's back that he doesn't go back in the team.
Agreed. Tottenham definitely in don't buy, don't sell territory for the next few, really, basically.
Well, yeah, I think sell is a case. I mean, with Richarlison, to be honest with you, the only reason not to buy right now is the blank.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd want him in, I think.
Yeah.
If Tottenham were playing in 26, even though it would be Chelsea away, and people might say, well, yeah, that's all right, you'd buy him. You'd be all over getting him as a priority, I think, at the moment. You've got an OOP midfielder playing up front as the 9. Place is secure. He will not get taken out of that team while he's scoring goals and playing well. It's just the fact that the blank in 26 gives you a headache. Otherwise, he'd be more of a priority to buy really this week than, say, Jota. But Jota's got an extra fixture before 26 probably as well. So I can't see me going there. Those who've got should hold. That should not be your sacrifice with 2 home games coming up. They're difficult games, Brighton and Wolves, but Brighton we know can concede. And Wolves, obviously, despite a great result yesterday, have conceded 6 in their last 2 as well, right? Yeah. So you don't want to move that on. Porro is more expendable because Tottenham don't look like keeping clean sheets.
No.
And although Mickey van der Ven particularly was outstanding again on Saturday, the reality is this. Since van der Ven and Romero came back in the team, Tottenham have conceded 2 to Man United, 2 to Brentford and 2 again at the weekend. So despite the fact that the best choice backline is all now there, we are still conceding goals. So you are so reliant on the attacking returns. And of course, over the last couple, it's Destiny who's provided the attacking returns. I still think Porro is the better asset longer term, but that's now, if you're looking at, say, Porro, and you can drop him down to
Doughty,
whatever.
If you can afford to bench.
Well, even more, if you need more money,
excuse me,
Teden Mengi is 3.9 now. He dropped over the weekend, and he's first choice for Luton. He'll play.
Yeah.
Van Heck's another one to carry you through fixtures. Will probably play games dirt cheap. So there's a load you can come right down, even if you need to find the money. So he might reluctantly be expendable. It would be a reluctant though.
Brighton 4, Palace 1. I feel like as soon as we saw no Eze, no Elise, it was the Brighton was on the wall a little bit here for Palace. You just feel like they've just come off a good result with the 2 of them playing. I heard on the radio afterwards, James, do you know how many games this season Eze and Elise have started together?
Isn't it like 2?
4. 4. And it just makes a complete difference to that team.
We're talking about 2 top quality footballers. I mean, the two of them, but put this into perspective.
We'd all have them in our team if we could,
it.
right?
The 2 of them would get into most teams in the league.
Yeah. But top 3.
If not all.
Yeah. I mean...
If the 2 of them played for City, did they get in? They'd play enough minutes, wouldn't
Well,
they?
put it this way, I'd rather have Eze than Matheus Nunez, for example, that they bought. Like that would be a better buy for them potentially. So, it's a real disappointment for Palace, of course. I mean,
I bet Palace fans are only relieved that it didn't get embarrassing.
Yeah, João Pedro, obviously, we were expecting news that he might be out for a while, and wasn't.
Played? Well, De Zerbi did say on Friday he said a fitness test. So
yeah. Pascal Gross popping up with a couple of assists. He's up the top 10, 12 point scoring midfielders now.
Consistent as hell.
But he did make a few changes, did De Zerbi, and they're back to winning ways. But obviously tougher fixture at the weekend.
Yeah, it's probably not an invest in Brighton at this moment with Tottenham away at the weekend. That said, it's not dive off your likes of João Pedro and Gross. Yeah, no. Gross will take a lot of set pieces against Tottenham, for example. Will Brighton... You've seen Brighton score from a set piece at the weekend through Lewis Dunk, where actually Henderson gets pinned in a similar way. Play Sam Johnston, please, Roy. It's a little bit of free advice I'll keep telling you every week. So I think your Brighton assets, particularly the attacking ones at least, you'd want to play this weekend. Defensively, more question marks. So I said last week that they've been kind of flip-flopping with sort of back four, back three. This was similar as well. If you look at Tariq Lamptey's average position at the weekend, who's basically played left wing back / left wing, he's basically the highest player in the team.
Yep.
Obviously, Estupiñán didn't start. Now, I think all that's a case of, personally, is the amount of minutes that he's played recently, and Brighton having a little period there where they played Tuesday and potentially managing his minutes. But it did also say on Friday's pod, that he got hauled off at half-time at Luton, and similar happened at Villa as well. And after the Villa game, he seemed like he maybe had the hump with him and he was injured. And then after the Luton game, again, he's not started. Now, there's every chance he'll come back in, and also he can play left-sided centre-back. But as a left-sided centre-back, it's less of an interest as an FPL asset. Also, if Brighton were to continue in this vein where the left-sided defender, if you will, is going to basically play like a winger, well, guess what? Matoma's back this week. So that Estupiñán's situation, for those who own, needs serious monitoring. I think he's the second most sold so far this week. So that's a definite don't go and invest at the moment. Those who own need to kind of keep a watchful eye during the week. I guess many might have been benching him this week anyway. If that's the case, probably take some information for an extra week before you make a decision. I don't think you're going to invest new in the others like Gross and Pedro, but as I said, you'll probably want to play this week. Van Heck should be kept an eye on. It's another one that falls into that enabler category that might find you the money. I don't think he'll play every game like Dunk will, but he'll play the majority. What you also have to factor for Brighton as well is once you get beyond 26, then they go back to playing every midweek. And then it's a free-for-all, isn't it, in terms of who plays and who doesn't. For Palace, Hodgson said, Eze said on Tuesday after the game, he said he was fine. I'll be all right. And then Hodgson said on Friday, he said, we've sent him for a scan. And I thought, well, that's really conflicting. If you've been sent for a scan, I'm not sure if you're going to play tomorrow, but kind of trusted Eze's own word to say, probably be all right. So Hodgson didn't sound too hopeful on Eze when he spoke after the game, so he's probably going to be out for a while. And Elise, they obviously got to tread very carefully now. Even if he's just felt it and he's gone, "Oh, take me off." And it could be that. It could be that he's felt a twinge and gone, "Uh-oh, I shouldn't be risked here. Take me off." And it might be that. But if he's out for a while and Eze's out for a while, and Mark Gay went off injured in the first half as well. If you take them three out of that team for the rest of the season...
They could go down, yeah.
It's not could. It's subject to points deductions of other they would. They'd be in big trouble real quickly.
It's 5 points between them and Everton at the moment.
I don't know if they're going to change with Roy or not, or if they're just hoping to kind of trundle on to the end of the season. But if them three players are out, they're in massive trouble. Really, really are. So, you wouldn't be investing in them at the moment. Chris Richards... played in midfield again, who's obviously 3.9. I know a few have had their eye on. Obviously, Gay's injury, he'll be the most likely to cover at centre-back. That might be affected once Rob Holding's back fit, but I don't know how long he's going to be out for at the moment. And again, like I said last week, there's a few who've been looking at Palace players to potentially cover 26 and 28 respectively. But if them other three are out, you wouldn't fancy their chances no matter what the fixtures are anyway.
Yeah.
They're in trouble.
Another team in trouble, Burnley. Burnley 2, Fulham 2. They'll be happy though. Like obviously they've got Fofana in now, and he's come on and scored 2 goals. So to get a draw out of it, when they're 2-0 down at half time, they will be happy with that. But
Liverpool
they
and
need
Arsenal,
wins.
and Liverpool and Arsenal are their next.
It's one of those, you get to the stage in the season where draws are no longer helpful for you, and this is where they're at now.
Yeah. I've said that last week. I think it's probably too late for them now. I think.
And obviously Luton we'll talk about it in a sec, to St James's, picking up a point, which is a free point almost, where you don't expect them.
Well, that's it now. You couldn't, at this minute, with respect, you couldn't see them finishing above Luton.
No chance.
Never mind someone else.
No chance.
What gives them a chance, the only thing that's going to give them a chance is the Premier League. If the Premier League smash off another 10 points off Everton and Forest, then... So they need to keep plugging away. That's the best advice, and the same goes for Sheffield United. Even though you look doomed, you just got to keep plugging away, because that's your chance. That the Premier League drag them right into it, and then hopefully you potentially have a run at the end of the season. But if Everton and Forest aren't in for points deductions, they're gone. Obviously, Dacho Fofana scored both of their goals, coming on as a substitute. The first was a little bit of a strange one from Leno, just completely misread the cross. And I don't think Fofana actually headed it where he intended to. It was a bit 50 pence, I thought. And he's obviously fortuitous with the finish for the second as well. Should Burnley stick him in the team in the sense that his confidence would be up? Yeah, just stick him in the team and go for it. They obviously had a couple of other debutants as well. Lorenz Assignon, who assisted Fofana's first goal, ended up in a left wing position, played right back, but it was just a breakaway from a corner, and he broke really well, and it was a good cross actually. He's 4 million in FPL, and Maxim Esteve, who came on at half time for Ekdal, is also 4 million, left-sided centre back. They've got loads of 4 million or so defenders. That's just blurred the lines even more. Seen people, is Alderkill nailed now, 3.8. He didn't start the weekend. Vitinho went to left back. It's just messy. You don't want any of that anyway. For Fulham, that's really disappointing, having been 2-0 up. And they were in control, really. Didn't really look like they were going to blow this either. Rodrigo Muniz played up front, took his goal really well. Does Breuer come straight in for him? That needs monitoring.
I'm looking at Breuer and Kearney coming off the bench. I mean, Kearney has been playing all right, and they've had a lot of possession. I mean, we talk about it on the Sky show about pass numbers and stuff when he'd been in the team. I do think they haven't bought Breuer I think that they've paid a 4 million loan fee for him for the rest of the season.
The loan fee is dependent on how many minutes he plays. It can effectively be
but also,
nothing.
There's no point in not playing him just so you don't have to pay the loan fee. Like, you got him for a reason. Play him.
Well, I think they got him in because I think there might be fears that Jimenez's injury is worse than we currently know. And
he'd play ahead of.
They let Carlos Vinicius go to Galatasaray.
I'm sure that.
So if they'd not, but obviously Muniz went into this as a doubt as well. So if they'd not got Breuer,
but he'd only literally had 2-3 days with the squad,
they might have been left with just Muniz up front potentially. So they had to get him in. I'm sure the intention is to play him.
I think so too.
Muniz has scored. He might play the next one as well. Point is, don't dive into them yet, but you'll keep an eye on them because they're potentially good neighbours going into 29, right?
Yeah.
If you know which one's going to play. Leno is still a very decent option. Robinson seems to be playing the majority of games at left back, and I think people will get drawn to keep looking at Fulham, even though it is Tottenham in 29. It's knowing that the fixture is there, and the fixtures aren't terrible over this run. So I think they're probably more a watch and wait at this moment, though.
Yeah, let's talk about the possibly game of the weekend, 4-4.
Well, it's got to be, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, awful defending generally. Like, there was some bad defending, some decently taken goals, but I think most of the goals you'd say were preventable in some way or other if there was just a little bit better defending. But also, who cares? Let's give us a 4-4, right? Let's have a bit of car crash. And for Luton to come back twice, then take the lead, their tails were really up. Like, they've got a bit of swagger about them now. They've got players there who, You got two eyes on. Like Bene is playing really well at the moment.
You'd be looking at them at the moment. I think you couldn't look at them exactly what I said, that Palace scenario.
Yeah.
If Palace had that scenario for the end of the season, we're not suggesting they're all out for the rest of the season. But if they did, Luton would finish above them.
Yeah, I think I've no like. If you'd have said to me at the start of the season, I'm going to be considering buying Luton players and what have you. Double aside, I'd still, even if there wasn't a double, I still think the likes of Doughty and stuff are capable considerations. Kaminsky and stuff, they've forced their way into people's thoughts, and the two doubles helps. Definitely, I think they gave Newcastle a tough old game.
They've just scored 8 goals in 2 games against Newcastle and Brighton.
Yeah,
they won at Luton. They won at Everton in the cup last weekend, which my club obviously couldn't manage at the weekend. They're in absolutely brilliant form. I feel like the Chelsea defeat was a light bulb moment when they lost 3-2, because they absolutely hammered them in the last 20 minutes of that game, despite not really being in it. Chelsea deserved the lead they had on that day, but were delighted to get out of there with the 3 points by the end. And I think it gave them real confidence in terms of actually playing. They're not just, yes, they're a big threat at set pieces, but this team's playing good football, primarily because they've got a player in the middle of the pitch who's got a brilliant range in terms of what he can do, right? Ross Barkley at his peak is a great distributor of short and long passes and a good ball carrier.
Yep.
So they can play into him. And he is an FPL option. At the moment, you're looking for an enabling midfielder. He's an option. Kaminsky in goal, we've spoken about, option. Tedemengi, option. Doughty, option. Adebayo, option. Colton Morris has found a new position in the last couple, where actually he's playing a bit of a deeper role, but he's also getting returns again. He's got an 11-pointer at the weekend. Loads of options. And if it wasn't for the blank in 26, you'd be going, oh my God, these are my options to get Salah, De Bruyne, and all that. You'd go for it.
100%.
It's just a headache of giving yourself too much more. The changes as well. Imagine if, and we won't know this.
If you're free hitting in 26, ride it through.
I don't like free hitting 26.
I know.
It is more.
But for some people, it might be the situation.
To be honest, I'd rather you just played 9 or 10.
Yeah.
I think, rather than doing that. And that is an option as well. You go, well, I'm not going to have 11 in 26. I mean, to be honest, you'd make a case to go like Trent, Doughty, keep your Porro and stuff like that, and go, well, defensive players ain't getting returns anyway, so what does it matter? Sell maybe Trent for like a Moreno in 26. And yeah, ride it with like, I think you primarily want the attacking players, not worry so much about the defensive stuff. Imagine as well if the Bournemouth game did go in 28, and imagine if they play Forest in 29 as well. Now, at the time of 25, you won't know about 29 because obviously the cup fixtures that are following midweek. You might know about 28 though, and that would potentially put a real different slant on things. If you're looking suddenly and going double, blank, single, double, and could be single, if you're running through, you'd potentially just take the punishment in 26 and keep their players.
Agreed. So, Newcastle, on the other hand, like they're missing a few, but it doesn't feel like they're missing loads. Like obviously, Pope in goal would be a better option. You'd play Joel Linton, and then
they're both big misses,
and Wilson maybe. But it's not like they're decimated like they had been previously earlier in the season. There's probably 3 players you might bring into that team, maybe 4.
The story of Newcastle's season is rather kind of summed up by the weekend of Harvey Barnes being back available and coming off the bench and scoring, but he's come back off the bench and scored for an injured Gordon. And Gordon left in a protective boot. That can always be over-exaggerated because they just tend to do that all the time now. We had that with Dominic Solanke, I remember last season. I think they had a game on a Monday. He left West Ham in a protective boot. He played on a Saturday. So you can read too much into that. But the general suggestion going around is, it might be problematic for Gordon. So if people own, and obviously he's ruled out, I think with what's going on in terms of the blanks doubles, he's going to have to go into sell territory, unfortunately. Callum Wilson obviously back off the bench as well to cover for Isak. That's how it feels for them. It's like one back, one out. It's been like that nearly all season for them. I think the real big problem at the weekend, most of them you would have been able to see it if you've seen any form of highlights, was how Bene, who's another possible option for Luton, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't even check. Is he down as midfielder?
Yeah, he's a midfielder. I mean, he won't appeal too much because he's playing right wing back, but he's playing really offensive.
But he is
in
getting
that role.
high.
Yep, absolutely. He wouldn't be the worst one, honestly. He absolutely tore Burn and Burn was getting done by Bailey in midweek as well. So that's 2 in a row now where Dan Burn getting run out by good quick dribblers such as Bailey or Benny has been real problematic.
He's a forward, Benny.
Is he?
He's a forward,
Is
mate.
he listed as a forward?
4.9 million forward, bro.
Yeah, you couldn't then, I don't think. Under that circuit, you would go Adebayo over Ogbene. So, sorry, he probably would be off the table. I think they'll change and go Livramento at left back now. And there'll be people still sitting there with him. You might be in for some good news. Yeah, I think there's every chance he'll come in for Dan Burn now. Lascelles probably isn't going to get back in. No, I think Botman's share is obviously clear as the first choice centre-back. Kieran Trippier is just about near enough the only well-owned defensive asset to return at the weekend. Yes, Alex Moreno owners, I hear you. But the only one with significant ownership who's returned at the weekend. Chaotic.
Yeah.
Chaotic for them. And unfortunately, I think they may still have some of these. You wouldn't expect them to concede 4 at home, would you? And it's not a one-off, right? The Forest 3-1 as well earlier over the Christmas period. So now, for one reason or another, and it is primarily injuries, going to St James's just isn't feeling quite as daunting for others as it would feel. And I think this is a real blow for Newcastle, because after they won at Villa, you did look at their fixtures and think they could put a real run together here and put themselves right back in the frame. And ironically, it's a different United. Manchester United have kind of put themselves closer rather than Newcastle.
They have. Let's talk about Sheffield United 0, Aston Villa 5. I mean, a very, very comfortable win. I had my in-laws came around for dinner on a Saturday, James. So I watched the first 10 minutes.
That's all you needed to watch.
Then they arrived. I thought, right, I better go and start doing some cooking. So I let them change whatever they wanted to on the telly. Checked on SofaScore. Like 15 minutes later, 4-0. I was like, where did that come from? They could have scored the 4 goals while I was watching. Comfy. But when you score that many goals that quickly, the game's dead at that point. Game is absolutely dead. And game state changes a little bit and what have you.
Embarrassingly easy.
Yeah.
By the way, if you look at the XG, I think there's only about 1 between them in the end.
2.2-ish for Villa.
And Villa.
And 1.5.
Yeah, nearly all of that for Sheffield United is after 5-0.
Yeah.
Other than Diaz had a good chance at 0-0, which Martinez nearly fumbled through him. He is playing really well, Emi Martinez, before Villa people come for me.
Because he's world class.
So Sheffield United went to a back 5. They went 5-4-1, which is understandable because it worked so well when they played Villa only, 6 weeks or so ago, right? And they deserved their point that night at Villa Park. They really did. Even when they went in front, you could feel the Sheffield United goal potentially coming as the nervousness grew for Villa. But this was a car crash. Mason Holgate has now made 2 debuts this season. And he's lost 5-0 on both occasions.
Ouch.
He lost 5-0 on his Southampton debut, I think at Sunderland. And he's lost 5-0 on his Sheffield United debut in this one as well. I'm not suggesting he's the sole problem here, but listen, if Everton don't want you, that probably unfortunately tells a little bit of the story.
Look at that Aston Villa midfield 3 of Louise Tielemans and Kamara, and I'm like, that's solid, you know. That's a really good 3 to have in there.
There's a common denominator in terms of Villa's best stuff, and those who listen regularly will know I keep saying what it is. It's Bailey playing, probably in front of Konsa, and it's Yuri Tielemans playing. That is the best combination for Villa at the moment. Konsa, by the way, we think is fine. He collided with a post and it was precautionary to take him off. Similarly with Bailey, obviously he is injury prone or has been. We know that. We know that he didn't start against Newcastle. He had a bit of a back complaint. If they've got a game 1, they're going to take him off and protect him because he's playing too well not to be protected. I saw a stat on Scout. So Watkins is providing a goal involvement, I think, 1.11 per 90 this season, which is madness, right? He's now on double figures for goals and assists. Bailey is per 90 about 1.08. He's only just behind him. With Bailey, it's just about to get in the minutes with him. He'll get the returns.
They've got a good run now as well.
He might have to be on the chopping block for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, United at home, as much as United beat West Ham, we'll talk about it, they weren't, like, what I would call impressed. Like, I think Villa will beat them at Villa Park. Fulham, Forest, Luton, then Spurs, but it's a home game. Then West Ham away and then Wolves. They've got a prolonged, decent run. It's just that they've got no doubles, but we need to find out what's happening in game week 29. But should they play West Ham in game week 29, definitely still options at Aston Villa to go for.
I can definitely see me going Trent to Alex Moreno in 26.
Yep.
I can see that move. It might not be beyond reason. Say if Pau Torres is ruled out for longer, I may even flip that now. Because as much as you could say, you have to be aware of this. It's all right saying, I've got Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, Luton players possibly blanking in 26. If you've got people like Pau Torres, for me, that's another problem. Now, I want Pau Torres to play against Forest, right?
Yep.
In 26, it's a good fixture. If I don't think he's going to be back, then that's a problem. If I do think he's going to be back, then I don't want to flip that because I don't particularly need him now in the next two. It's 26 again now that I would need him. Moreno would be the one. I'd take the upside of that. Particularly if, like I said, if you're figuring potentially going Trent to Moreno in, say, 26, the money's not going to be a problem. You're not going to need money building towards 29 if that's your intention. You might be targeting the likes of Bournemouth, Luton. It will be enough to allow you to get like a Son back in if you want to. If you're going Trent and Moreno, it won't be difficult to go to a Son from a Bowen or a Foden, or if that's the sort of thing you want to do. So I think, yeah, you'd go for the upside of Moreno. Yes, there'll be a little bit of concern over rotation. Yes, European fixtures will restart for them after 27. He'd definitely be first choice, and I think I'd want to take the chance on him.
Yep, agreed.
Sheffield United are... They won't stay up. I'll tell you why they won't finish above Burnley. So, with Burnley, the Premier League might give Burnley a lifeline. I cannot see Sheffield United staying up. And shout out to Tomo, FPL Blade, our Sheffield United correspondent, who was quite clear in going about our Slack channels at the weekend and telling people to captain Watkins. It's like he's going to destroy us. Tomo's on COTC this week to preview their game at Luton with Dan Ashby. And I think Tomo will come on and he'll be like, yeah, you can captain Luton players this week.
Let's talk about the Sunday games, James. Bournemouth 1, Forest 1. I think Dominic Solanke ended up being one of the biggest frustrations for FPL owners over the weekend.
Really quiet.
Not a single shot on target or off target.
I mean, I've not seen a lot of the game, but that's the
grateful
reports.
That he's given Haaland the chance, because that was a transfer I made last game week. So if Haaland as captain goes off today, it's made it a worthwhile transfer. I feel like when I look at Forest's front four in Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, Elanga and Awani that started, there's goals in that.
Yes, there is.
And if you look at the teams below, and even Palace, if they are missing one of their better players, I do think Forest, they've been scoring under Nuno, and I think that front four gives me some hope that they will continue to keep scoring. Not that I particularly
really like Dominguez as well. He's showing he can play left, right, centre midfield, 10. Really good multifunctional player. He obviously played a deeper role at the weekend. Yeah. So I like him as well. So you're right, yeah. I see goals in that team. What I see them doing at the moment, though, is going more Nuno ball against comfortably superior teams. So, for example, when they go to Villa in 26, I don't think they'll pick a team as offensive as that.
Yeah.
I think they'll play something like Dominguez in a wider role. Maybe Sangare will be back, sticking back into midfield, for example. They obviously have the option to potentially go with a back five as well. And they've got three players still at AFCON, Bolly, Sangare and Aina, because Serge Aurier has been sold. Nico Williams played right back in this one. It's worth saying how when he played, and the two chances he had in the first half, it didn't look quite right. I know he scored against Arsenal, but he looked a little bit shorter conditioning, I thought. And Chris Wood obviously didn't play because he's got his own injury as well. Matt Sells played in goal. Obviously come in from Rennes, I want to say. I might have that wrong. And that was inevitable. Forest were basically trying to buy half the league in the last week before the window shut. They were basically...
half the goalkeepers in the league, I would say.
They were being linked with all the way to like Ramsdale's, backup goalkeepers at like nearly every club in the league, basically, if they were available. They were so desperate to get one. This guy's fairly experienced. He was at Newcastle a few years ago as well. You couldn't put him at fault for the goal at the weekend, but they had to get something done in that area. They're still in trouble, but you are right. It is a blessing, I think, to look at them and think, yeah, you've got some players in there that can win you games. Because the more you come into this period, if you can put yourself in a position, if you're a Forest and suddenly you can win 2 games in a row, you're out. basically you're out of trouble.
Yep.
They've obviously got to keep their eye on what's going to happen. By the way, the scheduled decision on Forest and Everton's next punishment is not till April. Everton should find out about their appeal, we think, in the next 2 weeks. But Forest could end up suddenly getting a big points deduction in April, and they've got to be of the mindset of thinking we're in the bottom 3 now. That's got to be their mindset. So that brings an element of pressure. But yeah, decent result. I don't think Bournemouth didn't do enough to win this.
No.
I'd add on to them.
Game week 27, a comeback for Bournemouth with a double in 28, fingers crossed.
Potentially, if it happens. There was a little bit of rotation in this one, in the sense that Tavernier and Alex Scott didn't start. But I do think that's mainly a contributing factor of playing Thursday, Sunday. But then also, if that's the scenario in 28, where it's Wednesday and Saturday or something like that, well, it's maybe same problem. One of them, if they had the double in 28, one of them midfielders is like Tavernier or Scott, particularly, I think is really going to appeal. So I'd keep an eye on them. And the defensive ones will potentially appeal as well. Remember, if 28 would happen, it's Luton at home and Sheffield United at home.
Yeah,
like,
2 decent fixtures.
You would want 3. You could definitely, under that circumstance, go, well, I'm going to go just send Asai Zabani for a game here.
Yep.
Definitely could. Lloyd Kelly kept his place at left back rather than Milos Kerkez. That's the one you'd really like.
But I don't know if you think Kerkez is going to play.
Yeah, bit of an ongoing problem at the moment. Red card, by the way, for me is correct decision. I hate them tackles. Them professional fouls. If you actually look, he goes with the right, and actually he doesn't mean to stand on him in the way he does, but it's bad. It's really dangerous. He thinks if I miss him with the right, I'm going to kick him again with the left. I hate them tackles when they're clear professional fouls. I would like them to be red cards anyway. And in that circumstance where the actual contact is really bad, for me it's completely unquestionable. That's a red card. Yep, go.
Chelsea 2, Wolves 4. Is Maurizio in trouble?
He is. He
really is, isn't he?
I'll tell you what I did this morning.
I thought Wolves would give him a tough game.
Because I went to the toilet this morning, which is the correct place to be thinking about Chelsea at the moment, if I'm totally honest. And it dawned on me, I had this sudden thought, and I went, maybe they can't sack him.
Why?
Well, if you think about it.
Because of payoff.
Yeah. Imagine, seriously, they were that close on PSR. If they sack him now, it's got to go on the financial reports this year, right? Imagine they were that close to the edge and they couldn't sack him because of that. Now,
I don't think they should.
He's only on a 2-year contract, so it's probably really unlikely.
I don't think they should.
But if he was on a 5-year contract, it might have been a problem, you know.
Yeah. Do you think they should sack him?
I think I said to Chelsea fans at the start of the season, you will need 3-4 months to see.
It's been longer than that,
where you're at. And I think you've seen little brief periods of upshoots, like the Man City 4-4. They were great, right? That's 3 months ago now. When you look at the team they're picking at the weekend, you'd have to even say, yeah, sure, there's a few that they're without who could come back in, like
maybe Reece James,
and Fofana,
centre back.
And the goalkeeper, I think Sanchez, yeah, sure. But actually, Petrovic has not been Chelsea's problem. He's been fine in goal. I couldn't look at any of them goals and think it was his fault, particularly with the deflections. Like, he's not a fault for any of them goals at the weekends. He's not their biggest problem. But honestly, you look at that team now and you go, yeah, that might be their best 11.
Yeah, definitely the front, midfield 2 and then the 4 in front of them.
There was a lot of chatter within our Slack that we had wind that we thought this was the Chelsea team on Saturday night. There's someone going around, I don't know who it is, on some forum who seems to keep getting the predicted team right kind of 24 hours in advance for Chelsea. Something to be aware of. And it was exactly that it was. And it was obviously Chilwell and Gusto. And factor in everything I've been saying about protecting Thiago Silva. As soon as I saw that team, I thought they're in bang trouble. And I went in our Chelsea Slack channel and went, I think Pedro Neto's going to have some joy out. And sure enough, he did. Neto actually played as the central forward with licence to go and drift into those wide areas and vacate the space, obviously, particularly to the right-hand side when Chelsea's fullbacks push forward. That Chelsea lineup was like a dream for him. Absolute dream. And also for Cunha as well. If you look at the goals, one is caused by a big error by Caicedo, and the remaining 3 goals are caused by running in wide areas. So obvious once you saw that team. That's why I said last week that unfortunately, as amazing as he is and has been, if you want to do that and play with them two fullbacks and play with kind of a flatter midfield three and with a real protector like Caicedo, you've got to take him out of the team. It's too much work for him. That, where Neto's running him at the third goal, he's almost blameless. What do you want him to do? You're isolating a player's weakness and highlighting it for everyone to see. So I don't know if that experiment will happen again. So if you're suddenly thinking Chilwell or Gusto, I mean, you're not going to be looking at buying Chelsea new now anyway, even though it's Palace next. City away and then a blank. And it might be another blank in 29 if they obviously get a positive result on Wednesday. Yes, there's a case to hold what you've got, but I don't think there's any case to be investing new and buying. Like, and Cunha was quite underwhelming. Nah. We know the asset is Palmer. Gusto, because of his value, is a potential hold, subject to how you feel and what it covers best. But I think even in Gusto's case, say they did play in 29, he ain't starting him 25. He's unavailable 26. I ain't starting him 29. If I come to a conclusion that I wasn't starting him in 27 or 28, then he can be chopped as well. I don't even definitely start him against Palace. Yep. It's not even a definite for me. So, yeah, they're in trouble. And there's enough of a turn now because the excuses stop. What Chelsea fans will want is obviously something to believe in.
Yeah,
they're not. If they're getting beaten and losing games, you can see a real pattern of play, or they're looking really good and energetic. Think of Pochettino's Tottenham at its best, and it's high energy and stuff. They're not look very deliberate. It's like their possession numbers are always quite good. It's kind of, I saw this happen in his last year with Tottenham, where Tottenham became, rather than this all-action aggressive team, once he lost Dembele, they became more of a counter-attacking team that relied very much on, say, Son's speed, Ali joining in with Harry Kane and stuff. And it changed from being a team that was more akin to actually what Chelsea looks like now, that controls. And I always said my one real concern about him coming back to Tottenham would have been, I'm not seeing a good Tottenham team with him without Moussa Dembele. And Chelsea obviously don't have that player.
No.
So, yeah, concern. But I have to say, though, Gary O'Neill, what a job he's doing.
I was going to say, in terms of managers of the season or whatever, they're 10th now. They leapfrogged Chelsea after that win.
I do hate the manager of the season conversation at this stage.
But he was underwhelmed as an appointment. People are like, what the fuck? He's just kept Bournemouth up just about. Why are we getting this guy? And obviously you're coming off, what's his face from Sevilla, who's done so well. Why is the manager's name? Lopetegui. So you're kind of, it is not as an attractive a name potentially, but yeah.
I like that you use the word attractive as well, because what he's actually done for us neutrals, he's made Wolves attractive.
Yeah. For
the first time in a really long time. You think Wolves are playing. I look at them playing Sheffield United in a few weeks. That's the only Premier League game on a Sunday, and I think, I look forward to that, because I look forward to watching Wolves.
We talk about Cunha and they're like, shit, they paid 40 million for him. He's not a 45 million striker, is he? He's just banged the hat-trick in.
But he's now, here's a trivia question for you.
If they went to sell him, you might get 35, 40 million for him.
Since game week 12, how many forwards in FPL have scored more points than Cunha? It's
Maybe
another
Watkins.
stat I nicked from Scat. No, he's got more than Watkins since
not
game week 12.
It's only those two.
It's just Solanke.
Yeah, it's only those two I would have suggested.
Can you believe it? That's brilliant. Listen, there's he's obviously, look, one's a penalty, and obviously his first goal's heavily deflected as well. But he is more suitable to not playing the 9 role, basically, because I think he ends up back the goal a bit. He's almost better off playing it as a false 9 or coming from this wider area. He's a great ball carrier. He's really direct. The other thing that massively stands out with him is he's a little bit greedy. Like, he shoots a lot, but that's good for fantasy, right?
Of course.
The more you shoot, the more likely you're going to have. If you take someone like, as a comparison at the moment, Rashford, who's played a bit better the last few games, but seems to be trying to take one touch too many before he's getting his shots away, this lad don't think twice about it, and you'll end up with the deflected goals as a part of a course of that. So, yeah, I think it's probably just a little bit unfortunate for him. Those who are on will be absolutely delighted. But actually just Wolves players in general at the moment, that there's so much focus on perhaps the teams who've got the doubles coming up rather than actually investing them. But it's a similar thing. Like, could you go, it'll feel a bit bizarre at this moment, but something like Watkins to Cunha to open up money again, yeah, sure, consider it. And also I mentioned about moving to, say, Moreno in 26. Well, say you get to 26 and you've got Núñez up front. Could you be looking at Cunha at that point? Yeah, you absolutely could.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think he'd be the one. Just bear in mind as well, obviously Hwang, South Korea highly likely to get to the Asia Cup final, so he probably won't be back this week, but back for 25 and therefore potentially back for 26. Now, if you end up in a scenario where, just hypothetically, again, you end up with, say, and this is perfectly plausible, you get to 26 and you've got Salah, Jota, Richarlison, Palmer, and they're all blanking, you're looking for a midfielder in 26, he'll come back on the agenda. And I would strongly recommend, under that circumstance, even though you can't see it at the moment, Neto is providing really well. The assists keep coming, but Hwang and Cunha are more capable of doing like what Cunha's done yesterday and hitting that big hole. And Hwang might just come back and be a huge differential for 26.
Nice. Manchester United 3, West Ham United 0, Jays. Did you watch it? Or? Yeah. I tell you what, I came out of this game happier than I did the Bournemouth game on Thursday.
Yeah, I get that.
Completely bizarre. I was like, watch the first half, going in 1-0 down. You're like, to be honest, it was pretty even. We had a lot more control of the game with Ben Johnson kind of playing the right winger position, which was
Don't tell Alan
bizarre.
Smith, I think, still finished the game thinking you were playing a back five, but anyway.
No, not at all. It was 4-2-3-1. Have you wanted?
That wasn't my only gripe with that game, by the way. The laziness of Sky twice putting up Lisandro Martinez playing up right-sided centre-back did my head in as well.
Nah.
Carry on.
Went into half-time. You're like, you know what? It was pretty even. We probably had the better of it, definitely on chances. But there was one moment of quality, which was Højlund cutting in and finishing it. That was the highlight of the first half.
When he came onto his right foot, did you think he's scoring?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
When he turned Souček,
he did,
and it was kind of like Souček got in
score,
Zuma's way, and it was the finish of a striker who's scored in his last 3 games completely.
He's got a nice technique when he shoots. He shoots
nice.
through a ball.
Yeah. Then you come out the second half and you think, okay, let's carry on. But a deflected goal makes it 2-0. And then the problem with West Ham is it's like, all right, well, we go to Old Trafford and we don't normally win here, so let's just kind of play out the game and not win here. We gave it a go, though. I think we were constantly a threat without being a massive threat. It was like jabbing away without having loads of clear-cut chances. And I think that's the issue of not having a real out-and-out striker or focal point up top there. If there'd been someone up there that was really more dynamic, like Højlund in our team, for example, would have been much more of a threat. But getting back to finding a way, I think, with West Ham. But there's a problem in that midfield with Souček and Ward-Prowse. There's no creativity. There's really lacks.
I mean, it's obvious to say you're missing Paquetá really badly.
I feel like Ward-Prowse is that guy that he's got great ability on the ball and his passing is amazing, but he doesn't really use it in a very incisive way where he's playing a lot of through balls or finding players. He'll hit a long ball and it'll be neat and tidy and it's always defeat or what have you, but he won't cut through teams with this passing, which is a bit of a frustration, which means he can't really play in that 10 role. Better, but meh from West Ham.
I wrote down one word for you. Imbalance. It's all I've written down. What I don't understand...
Too much on the right.
No. Squad imbalance.
Yeah, at the moment, this is it.
Because what I don't understand...
Why did we get rid of 2 attacking midfilders and get 1 central holding midfielder? When
but you know what?
It's
fine. It's fine in the sense of your league position. Like, do you want to qualify for Europe? Do you not? Well, I imagine West Ham fans really do. What I mean is you're not in any... You were in danger this time last year.
Massively.
Right? You were in danger. You're obviously not now. You've done really well this season. But I don't understand the imbalance that it's given you, considering Europa's going to start again soon. Like, now you look light, mate.
Up top we do.
You look thin. So he obviously doesn't want to use Ings up front. I mean, what I don't understand
but he used Ings
is...
as a 10 against Sheffield United. It worked
he played really well.
Yeah, I don't get it.
And
to be honest with you.
He's not played since.
And you've got Maxwell Cornet who can play left wing. Why not play him as a left winger? So confused. But Kudus did well out on the left, to be honest with you. I didn't think he did particularly badly. But West Ham still not in.
I'd prefer him way more from the right. You know why as well? Shooting.
Yeah. He likes to cut in.
And he can finish with his right. We've seen that. But I think it's that when he comes from the right, he can obviously come in on his left and strike, or he'll take you on the outside. With that, it becomes a bit predictable. When he comes in the central areas from the left, it's uncomfortable for him, I think.
Yeah.
So
United were
his
better,
output would not look as good playing on that side.
but I don't think we challenged them enough. Like it's like they're going to Villa, right? Villa will give them a much tougher game because of the intensity and ruthlessness that they will play with.
Also,
and I think
respect to better teams, Suj.
Yeah, and they will. They'll create more chances. I think. I still think there's a few players within that Man United team. I feel a bit harsh being critical of Garnacho because he's 19 years old and he's a kid, but he doesn't. I've never seen a game where I've been impressed with Garnacho. I know he scored 2 goals yesterday, but I've never seen a game where I've been impressed with.
I'm glad you said this after the game rather than before.
But like he, you know, who you talk about players in teams where attacks go to die. The amount of times he makes the wrong decision or can't complete the final pass isn't good.
It were definitely 2 attacks that died with him yesterday. Died for you.
Yeah, but I mean, he's come away with 2 goals, so it makes it look like he's had a good game. I don't think it is. But I also don't want to be too critical because he's a 19-year-old boy at the end of the day and he's trying to find his feet.
And he's keeping an £80 million player. You can debate that.
Whether or not, like, give me the choice of Garnacho or Anthony, I'll take Garnacho.
Exactly.
But that's not saying a lot, particularly there. But yeah, and obviously Casemiro, I think, had a good game. Like, having him in there with that experience, it's just helped them a lot.
Final thing on West Ham before we talk United. Look, there was a big sliding doors moment in the game.
2. Emerson and Bowen. Emerson where he nicked it off
but the Bowen one
Maguire.
was really 2-0, wasn't it?
I think so. But again, go to 2-1.
Yeah, but the Emerson one, literally, they score straight away. That's what I mean by that. So if he scores, and he should score. You had 22 shots yesterday.
A lot. That's why I come out of it thinking we didn't play badly, and at least it was a big performance improvement.
No. I mean, and I thought you played. You didn't deserve to lose 3-0. United deserved to win, but
1-0, 2-1.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, I was more impressed with your first half yesterday than I was watching the first half on Thursday. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Garnacho. I mean, he's got to be right on radar, isn't he? He's definitely on radar for me, of course.
Because of his price.
And the 26 fixture at home to Fulham is good.
Yeah.
I could end up buying him this week and benching him, and I know there's a number out there. I've done that this week.
4.8.
What's not the line? I mean, be 4.9 by the weekend, I'm sure, if he is 4.8.
My criticism is not as a fantasy asset. There's always players that are right for fantasy, but
that's brilliant as a fifth midfielder. It's brilliant.
Would I rather have him in my team right now than Souček? Of course. And similar price.
And is it that improbable that they go to Forest and lose in the Cup and play Sheffield United at home in 29?
No.
It's not.
It's not.
So I think, Garnacho's really, really interesting, actually. He's a name that I've been talking about for, I feel like, 2 months. I obviously owned him in game week 1. That didn't particularly work out. Yeah, he's right on radar. For those who've got to find the biggest money this week, say Salah's suddenly back, he's probably going in for me, Garnacho. So, right on radar. Defensively, they're much improved. Now, Maguire came in for Varane. I don't know at this stage if that's Maguire favoured over Varane again now he's back fit, or didn't want to play Varane twice in 3 days.
I think he didn't want to play Varane.
Could be right, but he had that real period where he was favouring Maguire over Varane before Maguire got injured.
Yeah, but the way he kind of gave the ball away to Emerson.
Now, point being is, actually, I've just spoken about enabling Garnacho. Maguire is dirt cheap and might come into consideration as well as someone who'll do you a really good enabling job in 26 and 29. Now, 29 we obviously can't see, and it's less likely than likely that United play in 29. But, as said previously, if suddenly they walk into Sheffield United at home in game week 29, you're going to want some of it. Is it the worst thing to do to look at these players as enablers in the short term, use them in 26, decent fixture at home to Fulham, and if you land lucky, well, great. And if you don't, well, they're bench options. The problem, however, though, is, where it certainly helps Maguire's minutes but doesn't help United full stop, is the potential injury picked up to Lisandro Martinez is massive. In fairness to Ten Hag, he's obviously faced criticism from everyone. He did keep saying, when I get my team back fit, you'll see. And United have played well this week with near enough their strongest team on the pitch. That is arguably their strongest 11 that they played yesterday, with the question mark on Maguire Varane. Martinez is a massive miss. It's his control, it's his distribution from defensive areas, I think is really important. I think that's part why Maguire's had some favouritism over Varane, because actually he does punch the ball and play diagonals better. He plays diagonals much better than Varane, to be honest. I think that's why he sometimes gets favouritism. But Martinez would be a big miss. Also, Ten Hag doesn't like playing Maguire or Varane, I think, as the left-sided centre-back. Doesn't like doing it with either. So, it's not even improbable that Luke Shaw might move into that area. And Wan-Bissaka, subject to his fitness, he's injured at the moment with a leg problem, might come back in. So there could be an impact on Dalot and Shaw, who both played really well. They're both moving into, on occasions, Poro doggy positions. And do you know what? It's like when United do these things, it's not cool to talk about it. And I think they deserve some praise. Their team's fit. They played all right yesterday and weren't breathtaking or brilliant, but they deserved to win the game by the end. They certainly deserved to win on Thursday. Played really well. Yeah. You'd have to give them some credit. And it almost feels reluctant to do it because we've battered them so much. But yeah, dish out a bit of praise. It's got to be done.
Yeah. But I still think they get battered at the weekend. Not battered, but a comfy win for Aston Villa.
Well, Villa...
This is their level now, isn't it?
Villa are going to have... If United will have chances... particularly down Villa's left-hand side, which, guess who'll play there?
Rashford.
Garnacho.
Oh, you think he'll play left?
I'm saying Villa's left side,
Sorry, yeah.
That's the side where United can have some joy. That, Moreno, perhaps if he gets too advanced, and then attacking Longley will be the weakness for Villa.
Cool. Last but not least...
But I would probably bench Garnacho if I own this week, just saying.
I nearly forgot about this game, mate. Gunners 3, Liverpool 1. Still out partying, aren't they? Some of their players still on the pitch.
Like, as a Tottenham fan, can I say this? Gooners, celebrate however you want. We've been over this.
I thought they were going to lose 3-1. If you beat Liverpool at home and the state of the championship,
can we not even
enjoy it?
Can we not even talk about it?
Yeah, let's move on.
I don't know why at the end of the game that became the big narrative yesterday when there was really interesting things to talk about it.
But anyway,
like whatever, they're just getting lazy.
Very lazy.
Their coverage yesterday was piss poor. It's getting worse. Really good performance from Arsenal. Thoroughly deserved to win. They basically played a 4-2-4, which is not common for them. But in a way, Jesus being unavailable was kind of a blessing. It's obviously not a blessing it was unavailable, but it probably defined clearly in Arteta's mind what he wanted to do tactically, because the role that Havertz played wouldn't have been as comfortable for Jesus. Odegaard and Havertz basically played alongside each other. Havertz kind of to the left, Odegaard to the right. It's not too dissimilar to Odegaard's regular position, but he wasn't dropping as deep as quite often he does to perhaps join in with Rice. And that's because obviously Jorginho played. And what Arsenal had was a box between the midfielders and the front two, very similar to Brighton's ideal setup last year when you had Mitoma and March really high and sort of Welbeck and McAllister as your two front players who would drop basically into high 8 positions rather than kind of even false 9 positions. And the two wide players, obviously Saka, Martinelli, really high and using them where you can isolate them in 1v1s. Saka probably saw more 1v1s yesterday than he's seen in the last month, I should imagine. And it was probably a similar story for Martinelli. So that front four was really suitable for him yesterday. And Jorginho played really, really well, by the way. Really well. He was as good as Declan Rice. And considering he's not a regular starter, and I know he does come under some stick when he plays, he played really well. What they did, it was really interesting off the ball, Suj. Like I said, they're this box shape, and they kind of encouraged Liverpool to go through it. So go in the middle of it. So what they weren't going to allow was, and Liverpool didn't really have the personnel to do it, but they weren't going to allow Liverpool to have it in the wide half spaces. Yeah, Jorginho to the left, Rice to the right, and they was basically encouraging them to say, right, eat in between your 4 box of your 2 forwards and your 2 midfielders. Eat in the middle of it, and once you hit in there, we're going to suffocate you. And because you've overcommitted in there, we can spread it out wide and get you on the counter. And it worked a treat for them. It was a good tactical setup from Arsenal, and it worked really well. I think Liverpool had some misses. Salah goes without saying. And without Salah and Núñez, I think Peter Drury said on commentary it might have been the first time this season that they hadn't had one or the other in the team, which makes sense because Salah plays nearly every game anyway, and Núñez has been starting recently. But it didn't have that kind of real directness. I felt there were times as well where, if you think back even to the first goal Liverpool scored in the same fixture last season, it was just a ball played over the top into the right channel, and it led to a Núñez equaliser. And Liverpool just couldn't really have that option at the weekend to turn over the top. And we always say when they're at their best, there's so many different ways they can get you.
Yep.
Well, that weren't a way at the weekend to just have Trent firing one over the top, for example. It didn't have the personnel in that extent to obviously hurt Arsenal. There was some chaotic moments in the game. Gabriel's equaliser. Arsenal fans must have gone in half-time and went to headbutt the wall because they'd been so far the dominant team, it was a joke that they weren't winning. And then obviously, Liverpool started the first 5 or 10 minutes the second half quite well. And Klopp did similar with his setup to try and match up Liverpool, where he'd had Gakpo dropping in a bit deeper. And briefly, Liverpool were at the same, a 4-2-4. I don't know why he made the changes so early in the second half. It felt like he started the second half better, and then he made the 3 changes. And I think it was partly because he didn't want to get Núñez on, and then that structure doesn't work with Núñez. But I felt he should have stuck with it a little bit longer, or if he was going to bring Núñez on, bring him on into a wider area. And then from there, Arsenal with a better side. But obviously, Arsenal's second goal was... You got Van Dijk and Alisson are obviously both exceptional. They've made a complete clanger and a mess of it between them. And ultimately, it decides the game because despite Arsenal being the better side, I wasn't really convinced that they were going to score at that point. But they thoroughly deserved it. And celebrate. They're back in the title race. They were dead if they lost. We've been saying it, if they lost to Liverpool, 8 points behind... look, can you make that up if you're chasing one team? Yeah, sure. But you ain't going to catch Liverpool and City. Forget it. So they've kept themselves in it. They've got a good fixture run coming up. They need to go on and take advantage of it now.
Indeed.
Liverpool assets are more interesting for what's coming up. Núñez, I think Jota over Diaz would be clear. Trent, obviously, but I don't know if people are going to dive into that. I do think, ironically, if you want to wait an extra week, I do think Konate will probably play both in the double now. Also consider that he's probably the most dominant of their other centre-backs. So you've got Gomez and Quansah. Konate of that trio is the most dominant, and Brentford and Luton will be unapologetic with the way they put the ball in the box at times. So I think Konate will probably play the double. Obviously, he won't play in 24. Wouldn't be diving into Robertson. Gakpo would be an avoid. I wouldn't go near that route. Ultimately, a lot of this week is going to be defined by Salah. I would be concerned, like I said, by the fact that I feel like Trent has been built up. It's been like sub-appearance, brief, another sub-appearance. It almost felt like a kind of planned sort of hour here. Liverpool, again, was 53 minutes or so he played. I mean, Liverpool weren't as good without him. No way. I felt like a little, I wouldn't say lost, but that's such a weapon with him and his delivery into the box. And it allowed Arsenal to just sit deeper as well. You don't really want to invite Trent crossing the ball into the box. No. If it's other players, you're happier to invite it a little bit more. So I would be concerned with Salah that if he got no minutes this weekend, that he might get eased into 25. Remember, after 25, they got the cup final as well. And then Europa starts
I was
afterwards.
considering Andy Robertson as a Porro replacement if I had the money, but I don't think I'm going to have quite enough. Just as a differential, going Trent and Robertson, they've really been a differential in the past. If I had the money, I think I might even do it. It would cause me another headache for 26, but I'd figure out a way.
I'd also say with Robertson, and he probably would play both. He'll probably play the games going forward. But Gomez has done well enough that that's not an automatic.
Yeah.
That's not an automatic. And who knows? Maybe Conor Bradley obviously sadly lost his father in the build-up to the game. Maybe he would have played again, but I'm convinced that Trent would have played personally. But he didn't invert into midfield in quite the same way. He played a very much a wider role. And I don't know what the thinking was behind that, because I think Liverpool would have had more control if they did that. I don't know if that was the thinking of not getting Konate drawn out to Martinelli. But then Konate essentially ended up getting sent off for 2,000 Havertz. You should never be in that position. You should trust yourself a little bit more. Arsenal assets, I think are quietly interesting here. I mentioned about potentially considering adding a second defensive one here. The fixture run is good. We'll know after Wednesday night if they're going to play in 29 or not. And if they do, I think they go right to the top of the fixture ticker over to 29, despite the fact they wouldn't have a double in there. And I think even going, because I don't think money will be a problem building towards 29, even the likes of Ben White become a real consideration for me, I think. So would Saliba. I think there's a bit more upside in White, though. Zinchenko would avoid. Kivia played quite well, I thought, when he came on very quietly yesterday. That setup that they used yesterday with Jorginho deeper won't stick in all the games. You might see it again in some of the bigger ones, like maybe even when they play City, which is that the first week after the March international break, isn't it? I'd be like March the 30th or March the 31st.
Cool. James, there are not too many questions in on the internet that we haven't already covered off. There are a few that we don't need to talk about at all. Anytime anyone uses the essential word, like sentences like...
You've got the wrong podcast.
Is Ben Johnson essential?
I mean, that's just... We'll take that. No, he's not. I wouldn't even know what price he is. He ain't going to play right midfield that much. You've got to know that whenever Paquetá's fit, he's going to go on the left. Kudus is going to go to the right. To be honest, Ward-Prowse actually becomes more interesting now. If he's going to play that 10 position, excuse me.
And on pens.
Paquetá take him when he's back fit, though, wouldn't he?
Who knows with West Ham? We've moved them around so much recently.
I think Paquetá would be first choice.
Paquetá would make himself first choice. That's without a doubt. He likes to pick up the ball and just take it without listening to other people anyway. But we shall see. What's the schedule for the rest of the week for the listeners, James? And then I'll pick out a couple of questions that we've had in on Twitter.
So People's Poll podcast tomorrow. The vote is open now to about 5-ish. It's a January transfer window theme that we've got for you this week. There are 3 options from that. You can either choose our top 10 best ever January transfer window buys. We can also investigate whether FFP PSR is going to have an impact on future transfer windows. It certainly did on the one that's just gone. Also, we can do an intro to you to the January signings that did happen, because a lot of players who joined the league that people won't know a lot about. That vote is available for you on Twitter up to about 5 p.m. UK time today. Wednesday's Sky Fantasy. Thursday's Clash of Correspondence is Luton versus Sheffield United with Dan Ashby, Ben Tomo Thompson. For patrons, that will be available for you tomorrow. I'll be streaming on Friday, currently scheduled for Ask James at 12 p.m. UK time. Our podcast this week include the Q&A today that's available for all of our patrons. Thank you very much to our patrons who fed back on our podcast on Thursday as well. It's very much appreciated, isn't it, Serge?
It is.
Thank you. UCL Fantasy, we're going a week early with it because the Champions League restarts next week, so me and Clayton's going to do that tomorrow. Tottenham on Wednesday, Money in Football on Thursday. We're going to revisit what's been happening with Reading and sell before we die, because we don't know if this situation is getting better, and we hope that obviously they do not die. And our Friday podcast will be our Game Week 24 preview, the differential show. Advanced tier content this week includes away days, my trip to Everton, Twitter stories on tonight's Brentford Manchester City game, a look at a Game Week 24 wild card, either dependent on the result of Wednesday night. We've got Nico's Corner on Thursday as well, and the Team News stream on Friday. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Do it because you want more content, or of course just because you want to support the show.
You get ad-free content, you get the additional shows James mentioned, you get access to some prize leagues, you get a fixture planning spreadsheet that James updates, including his predicted doubles and blanks and all that kind of stuff. You get Slack community with loads of engaged managers. I think that's it. But there's plenty of perks of becoming a patron and joining our community. We'd love to have you over there for the rest of the season. A new perk as well on FPL.team now. You get a free paid account, like a subscription account, as opposed to just using the free tool as well. So much value that we're trying to offer through Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/planetfpl to support the show. Questions. Mikey says, due to funds, he can only bring in Rodri or McAllister for Gordon. Would you take a punt on either for the double?
I don't mind getting Rodri.
He's chipped away with goals and assists all season.
I really don't mind it. It's one that will get frowned upon. with 2 home games, particularly, I really don't mind it. The thing with him as well is, because of his pass completion and stuff's off the charts, if he does rock up with an attacking return, there's every chance your bonus will come with it, subject to how well the others do and stuff. I don't hate that, getting Rodri at all, actually. I mentioned it as a possibility for me a couple of weeks ago. It's probably a no. I'd definitely go Rodri over McAllister.
Yep. Knuckles, would you rather, for next season, your team has no injuries for the entire season, or your team starts the season on +4 points? It's got to be the injuries.
What, for FPL?
No. Your actual football team.
Oh, as in the team we support?
Yeah, it's got to be 4 points.
For FPL, I'd definitely...
He doesn't specify FPL or not, but...
Oh, right. Well, let's answer both. For FPL, it'd definitely be no injuries. If you could have no injuries, think of the planning you could do and stuff.
Yeah, it'd be worth
for
way
4
more
points.
Than 4 points. But even my regular team, I'd say no
because
injuries.
Because of injuries, you're probably going to take hits and stuff, so no injuries, definitely.
Yeah. And even for the main team.
For my actual team, I mean, would Tottenham be on extra 4 points if we didn't have that period of those injuries? Yeah, probably.
100%, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think you'd take the no injuries all day long. Danny UK, just for his benefit, James, when will we find out which teams will double in game week 34? Judging by the Premier League, game week 33. They'll tell us a week before, mate.
No, it can't be that. So as per Monday's pod, just to cover that off briefly, so you'll know 29 during the midweek that builds towards 27. That's when the FA Cup quarterfinals are. I think in terms of a possible 28 announcement, I think we would know to repeat before, it should be before 25 latest, really. Doesn't mean it would be, but it should be. In terms of game week 34, what you will at least know is which 4 teams won't play on the weekend. If it's 4 teams, might only be 3 teams. Might only be 2 teams due to the FA Cup quarter-final results. So you'll know definitively whichever team's got an FA Cup semi-final cannot double, right? You can certainly know at least that. In terms of the weeks, we said it was, 3.5 weeks? Mm-hmm. I think from the start of game week 30 to the midweek of 34. So really, really, we should know before game week 30 what the outlook will be for 34. And unless Bournemouth-Luton hasn't been arranged and unless Chelsea beat Villa on Wednesday night, if you know 34, you'll know 37 as well, basically, near enough. And you'll largely know it. You might have an odds and sods like Bournemouth-Luton or Chelsea v Tottenham if Chelsea progress in the Cup. But we should know 34 before 30, and therefore you'll largely know 37 as well.
And last but not least, James...
I can't promise it, though, because idiots... 1 game to arrange all week. It's just, honestly, it's terrible. It's so bad.
Yeah. I mean, I have no words, James.
There's no way that announcement should have gone beyond Monday. I said it last Monday morning, I went timestamp 10 o'clock, because I thought there was every chance it'd be announced before we finished the podcast. It's a joke.
We at least know now. Last question.
I started tagging them on Thursday, because I thought, are you stupid?
Last question, James, is around strikers. There's a couple of strikers. Like Chris says, which 2 strikers would you want alongside Haaland for the next few weeks? Ryan says, is Rasmus Højlund a legitimate option now? His price is 6.9. I think Ollie Watkins got to be there just because of consistency, right? Double figures goals and assists so far this season. Would you put Højlund as the 3rd option in there?
If it's money, no objects, the best 3 for me is Haaland, Watkins, Solanke still. Villa carry through nice. Fixtures are really good. Solanke, there's the potential for that extra at any point. The next few are difficult, but he's definitely consistent and a talisman. I would look at someone like Cunha and I think, like I said, Hwang might come back and Hwang might take some of the scoring off him. So it's not as clear. You could easily get the wrong one there, right? Yeah. Solanke's the standout Bournemouth one, as Watkins is with Villa, primarily because Bailey, we haven't got enough clarity on his minutes and stuff. So it's still them. Højlund probably arguably is the United asset of choice now. I guess if money's no object, is in good form. Like I said, covers 26 really well. So I mentioned about maybe going to Cunha there. Maybe it would be a case of going to Højlund there. I wouldn't rush that. Like, they're going to Villa this week. Clearly, all the monkeys off his back in terms of scoring goals. It's definitely there. What's that? 3 in a row now he's scored.
He started. There was a blank in there.
It's 4 in a row.
4 goals in 4 games he started.
It's 4 league games in a row.
And that run, but it's 4 in the last 4 he started.
You're right. He did miss a game. So, yeah, so he obviously fancies himself now. Enough to think he can do air guitars off of his knee, which is an interesting celebration.
It's his thigh, mate.
Did you see his interview? Did you see his interview where he said, someone suggested it because no one else does it. Maybe I'll make it my own. And then he paused and he himself, I think, could feel the tumbleweed of like, don't do that again, mate.
It's not a good celebration.
Yeah, he could be considered. I'd rather invest in Garnacho for the cheaper and the play in the good fixtures, don't play in the worst fixtures. What probably is more interesting about the narrative of that, and I think I've been on 3 up front for, I feel like the whole season, actually. And it does feel like 3 up front very much at the moment. Like if you're sitting there with your archers and things like that, I think it's time to look at things like Adebayo, even if you can't get there, or the Fulham forward, Muniz, Breuer. There's a number to consider there. That's it, isn't it? It's suddenly now, there's so many forward options. And I realise I say so many, it's only like a good 7 or 8, but that's enough. That's enough to be thinking there's a debate here about certain forwards. You've got Haaland, maybe Alvarez, we don't know at this moment. Watkins, Solanke, Cunha,
Højlund,
Adebayo, Nunez. There's a lot suddenly, yeah.
Indeed. Listeners, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Planet FPL. As James mentioned earlier, we'll be back at you with all of the rest of the content for the rest of the week. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the show. Stay safe, look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Play it your way. Be nice to each other and good luck. Cue music, please, man child.